Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a really great Saturday. I thought I would share this since I'm currently taking my Saturday morning to do some maintenance on my stamp pads. This time of the year in the United States, I live in the Northeast United States, and it's very, very dry. So I have to add some ink refill to my stamp pads to keep them nice and juicy. I did a video a few days ago and everything was really dry, and that got me looking. And do you know that every single one of my stamp pads was completely dry? I could barely use any of them. So this is a perfect time for me to share exactly how I maintain them. So I always use the coordinating ink color. This is Petal Pink with my Petal Pink stamp pad. And I just simply go and squeeze the bottle and put lots of drips. And then I take a disposable knife, like a picnic style plastic knife. And I wipe the color in both directions, making sure to get it all the way to the edge. I try to get an even coverage, but I find that there's not going to be anything that's perfect with this. Just use the judgment, excuse me, from your eye and see what you think looks like an even coverage. And if it needs a little extra, then it's okay to put a few extra dots around. As long as you kind of move that ink around and it doesn't sit in one place. So I'm using the smooth side of the knife and using a gentle pressure. And then I'll wipe that off. What I tend to do is we get a lot of knives in our family. Yes, Karen, this is for the new stamp pads, but my son takes his lunch trip. He takes his lunch every day and he always eats with a spoon. But I tend to find at the local grocery store, I tend to find these packages like this. And it has a variety. You can see that it has all three. And the spoons and the forks, they get used because sometimes we toss in a fork for Trip depending on what he's eating. And I'm left with all these knives, like literally 100 knives in my house right now. Isn't that crazy? So this is what I do with my knives. I've saved them up and then I use them. And some of the ink colors wipe off easily like the Petal Pink did. But I just did Night of Navy a few minutes ago and it did not. Now you guys can see, look at how, this is so saffron. Look at how dry this stamp pad is. It should not look grainy like this at all. And this is the dry weather. In fact, my husband has got a humidifier that he has started running in my studio for me just to prevent any of this kind of stuff. Oh, wow, I actually got a stream going. Okay, that's going to be a bit more than just the little dots. But this stamp pad was really dry. So I'm just smoothing it out. And can you tell already that this is more of what it's supposed to look like versus looking very light and grainy? My soft seafoam was the worst. I've never seen, I saw more of the white foam pad than I did of the color. It was really, really bad. So I was making some cards last night and I had to ink up every stamp pad that I wanted to use before I could use it. And so I thought I'd set aside some time this morning while the kids are just kind of lounging around with Gary and see how much better that looks. It makes a world of difference. And then I can probably, because this ink will be easy enough to come off, then I can just put it and wipe it off. And as long as I wipe it on another part and I see that there's no color coming off, then I'm okay with it. And let's check out Pear Pizzazz. I'm afraid Pear Pizzazz is really in need of help. Well, that's not so bad. Did I already ink this up? I might have. Well, we're going to add some more ink to it just to be on the safe side. I can kind of tell sometimes when the sides of the foam, and I'll see if I can show that, the sides of the foam are starting to raise up to where it would go like this, like a curve. Then usually that's a good indication that my stamp pad needs to be a little bit more juicy than what it is. So this is the Pear Pizzazz. Yeah, I think it definitely needed some help. My poor stamp pads, I've been abusing them by not keeping them in a properly humidified environment, and I have not inked them up before the dry season started. Yes, Kathy, you can apply too much, and if so, what do you do if it puddles? That's a great question. And I did that to a stamp pad that was, I think the color was basic gray, and it was maybe a year or so ago. And I had to take a paper towel. I used one of those paper towels that, Nate, please go out. Take your computer out. Thank you. I used one, like a brand of paper towels that was lint-free. Mommy. That's what I used to try to get it soaked back up. Oh, I know, Nate. Okay, go out. Thank you. Nate's making his Christmas list. So he watches YouTube videos, and every time Nate sees something that he likes, and he comes and he shows me so that I can add it to his Christmas list. Isn't that sweet? Okay, I think I might have gotten this one. Nope, I don't. In fact, I can see, I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but I can see big white streaks. Can you see that? I'll hold it at an angle. There's big white streaks. And I know some pullback of the color is typical, but not to the degree of what I'm seeing here. So I'm just going to add more ink to it. And then use the flat side of that knife to spread it out in one direction and then come back the other direction. In fact, I had to take that one stamp set, that stamp pad, the one that I over inked, I had to end up replacing it because I put so much ink on it that it never was the same. I tried to recover it, but it literally just, it was more work than what I had time to go ahead and try to fix it. Yeah, look at all the grainy white on Pool Party. So part of the fun is to locate all of my ink refills that are in rainbow order in my little holder. Yes, Joanne, it's like frosting a cake, very much like that. So I'm generous. I tend to be a bit more generous with the ink than not, which is not typical of me because, like with watercoloring, I tend to work on the side of caution. But with this, I kind of have been able to gauge what degree of ink I can add. And I don't know if the camera is picking up any of the new hue that it has, but this is more of what my stamp pad is supposed to look like. It probably just looks like a big dark glob to you guys, I'm sure. Hi everybody that's joining in. So what I'm doing is I am sharing exactly how I maintain my stamp pads. And right now in the Northeast United States, it is very, very dry. So with all of this, sorry, it just fell down. With all of this lack of humidity, then my stamp pads are drying out. And so I've done the neutrals, and I'm moving over now to the subtles. You guys could probably see a pattern in the colors that I'm using. Let's check out Mint Macaron. Oh, poor Mint Macaron. I feel so bad. I should have checked these before, but this kind of seems to be the time of the year when I have to go in and make these changes. And here's Mint Macaron. So if you live in a dry environment, then one idea is if you have a humidifier that you can keep running in your craft room, or wherever it is that you store your stamp pads, that's one thing that will help. I did not have the humidifier running at the time, and my husband has since gotten one started in here. I've turned it off when I started the video because it can be quite loud. But we run a cool mist humidifier in here and in all of our bedrooms in the dry months, in the cold season here in New Jersey. And I imagine that some of you all are experiencing quite the same thing. And so this is the great time to be able to ink up all of those stamp pads. And Anne-Marie is asking, how do you just by looking at them that they need re-inker? Okay, here's one good example, and I'll show you. I look at the stamp pad, and I know this is not going to show up on camera, but I can see that there's patches where there is less ink than other ink. And I can kind of see a little bit of the white foam coming through. And I really don't think that this is going to show up on camera. I can bring it closer, but it's not going to show up. So if I hold it at an angle in the light, then it'll kind of show me the saturation of ink. And I can see for sure that the saturation of ink on this stamp pad, it needs help. Joanne is asking or saying you can use re-inkers in the old pads, but not old in the new. I will be honest with you, Joanne, I'm not an expert on that. I know Stampin' Up! Has told us not to use the new ink formula or not to use the old ink formula on the new stamp pads. Pardon me. So whenever I ordered all my new stamp pads, I ordered the new ink refills as well, so that I was putting the same ink formula into the proper stamp pad. And I still have a lot of stamp pads that are not new. You guys just saw me use Pool Party. And I haven't been able to, it's going to take a while for me to replace all my stamp pads. I'm doing it slowly. You know, every quarter I add a couple of new stamp pads to try to get up, you know, to where they're all the new style and the new ink formulation. Let's see, Kathy says, so what are you initially looking for when I open them? Okay, I think I answered that with Anne-Marie. And I kind of tend to like give the bottle a little bit of a gentle swish. I don't know that you'd call it a shake, but I'm trying to make sure that if there's any ink like sediment or anything, I don't know if it works that way, but I just kind of have a tendency to be a shaking person. You know, I'll kind of do this before I open it up. I don't know that it helps, but in my brain, it makes more sense to me than to not do it. I have so many medications that we give the children, and everything says to shake. And then we buy them like smoothie drinks that have a screw top lid, and it all says to shake. So we're just I'm used to shaking everything that I need to. And sometimes, excuse me, sometimes this ink will come off the knife and I can keep using the knife, but sometimes it will not. And then I just grab another knife out of my little package here and I move on to the next stamp pad. So it's really that simple. And I also make sure when I'm doing this that I inspect to make sure that I'm closing my stamp pads all the way, because that is That's something that I sometimes have a tendency to do that I don't realize that I do. And I'm also going to ink up my Versamark. In fact, I think I need to get a new refill. This is one stamp pad that I make sure that I keep really, really, really juicy. Because if I don't have enough of the ink on my Versamark stamp pad, then it won't work. Heat embossing will be patchy and it just won't work right. So this one is a little bit different feel than the other ink. It's kind of like maple syrup, or not, it's more like pancake syrup. So I put it down in kind of like an organized fashion so that I can get more coverage, and then you gotta like lift up the bottle so air can get in, or else it's going to really be a lot of pressure on the fingers. But this, you can see, this is almost like pancake syrup. Very, very thick, like corn syrup. I wanted to say maple syrup, but maple syrup is not like that. Unless it's been in the refrigerator for a long time. Okay, so that seems to be enough. We'll check it and see what happens. And then I spread it out. And as you can see, this doesn't spread out as easy as the dye ink does. So I'm going to give some pressure to it. And this tells me exactly how dry this stamp pad was. It's not spreading out very easy. So I'm going to go over it again. Try to kind of get some lines. And I need to get a new one of these. Because holding it, I need to get more air in the bottle. Come on. And then I'll let it go and flood down to the tip and squeeze it so that I'm not squeezing so hard. And then I'll be able to spread this out a little better. So this one's going to work a little differently than the others. But yes, you can even oversaturate the Versamark pad. Just be careful. Just kind of gauge what you feel is enough. And don't put too much. Hey Philomena, how are you today? So here we go. I think this is enough. And I'm not going to reuse this knife because now I've got the sticky ink. And it's not going to come off as easy at all. So I'm going to turn around and put that one in my little knife thing. And when I store my Versamark, I tend to store it like this, just like our dye ink stamp pads. It hangs down. But since I just inked this, I'm going to have it store like this. And it's time to give Memento some ink too. And I'm using these special stamp pads just so that you all can see that, yes, you do need to, even your specialty inks, they need to be refilled as well. I use a lot of Memento. Whoa! I think I almost got too much there. And it's just soaking it right up. Can you guys see that? Now this is not a foam pad, this is the felt, and so it's going to act a little differently. In order for me to get some of that ink over to the other side, I have to apply more pressure to get it moved over. And if it comes down to this being too wet, then I will take a paper towel and try to sop up some of it. Yeah, I think I'm on the verge of it being too much. Yeah, this is definitely not going to get reused either. So I guess let's try this one out, see what happens. Oh, thank you, Joanne. I was doing this, I was sitting here and listening to the news, and I thought, well, I ought to try and share this because these are the little things that oftentimes we don't think about, that other people would like to know what the hints are. And yes, I am still in my pajamas. So I'm definitely not turning the camera towards me. Okay, let's see how well this works. Perfect. Check it out. It's not too much. Awesome. This is something that's from a new stamp set called Beauty Abounds. And I had it out here on my table because last night I was working on an online class for this that's going to come out in December. And again, I'm going to store it like this, not like this. This is how I typically store Memento, but I'm going to store it like this so that that ink has a chance to soak down. And this is a wonderful stamp set, by the way. I'll give you a closer look at it. It's one of the new Cling stamp sets. And it has so many beautiful images. And it also has this bokeh look. And I've been playing around with that, and it's a little bit tricky. So I'm trying to get used to how it works, and that way I can share it with you guys. And it matches the Butterfly Beauty Thinlits. This is a big double pack. Look at all those beautiful thinlits. Isn't that gorgeous? It's just wonderful. This is it from the Occasions catalog that will be coming out. Hi, Debbie. Joanne is still in her PJs too. You're off to go get some plastic knives. Look in your kitchen cabinet first. Because seriously, you could already have some in your kitchen cabinet like I do. It's one of those things that's pushed so far back in the cabinet that you don't know that you have 12 packages of knives until you go and clean your cabinet out. Oh my goodness. Anyways, well, I hope you all have a fantastic Saturday. I'm going to continue with my other 3 rows of stamp pads that I've got to do. I got 2 columns down now. I've done the neutrals and I've done the subtles. And so now I need to do the in colors, the brights, and the regals. And then I'll be able to stamp, because I wanted to make a card this morning and work another card for my online class. But I couldn't because I can't do any stamping until all my stamp pads have been refilled. So word to the wise, if you are in the parts of the world that has more of a dry climate, then do yourself a favor and get a humidifier and put a humidifier in your craft room, and that will help tremendously. I also have gotten splits. In the winter, I get splits in my fingers, and they bleed, and it's terrible. And if we run humidifiers, then it's not so bad. All right, folks, have a wonderful Saturday, and I hope you guys have some fun time crafting and getting ready for Christmas. Oh, and since today is December the 1st, how about think about creating a December journal? I think they call it December Daily. And it's kind of like maybe a mini scrapbook where every day in December you can write down what your preparations were and how you celebrated the holiday season. And if you celebrate Christmas, then you can work towards your Christmas decorations or whatever your holiday is that you celebrate. And that would be something to go back and look, and you could take pictures and put in there. I'm thinking about creating a 12 Days of Christmas mini album and making it into a series, because my kids absolutely love the song The 12 Days of Christmas. So I thought that might be fun to do and share some of the things that we're doing around our household and make it with a theme of the 12 Days of Christmas. So have a wonderful time, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.
See you next time.